The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make a lot of noise, but we ain't rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat on my way. We're with you. It's time for pickup. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and liftoff.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott. It's great to have you along for the ride on this Tuesday, October 10th, Wednesday, October 11th. If you're on the East Coast or across the pond, hope you've had a great day and night. We are live right here in the Great White North, on top of the mountains here in central British Columbia, as we are live for your listening entertainment 7 days a week. We welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Like our music, get your horns up for Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy and Sons of Apollo. Bumblefoot is the official music of this show. We're all over social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. Tune us in on TuneIn. We're on TalkStream Live, and you can subscribe and download our shows from iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, if you want to take part in this show, you got to do me a favor. You got to sign into one of our chat rooms. You can either join us on Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the UPRN chat room, or on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, like Michelle and Jeff, all you got to do is use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. I will connect live with you there as well. Now, if you head to our website for $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. You can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Read The Encounter online by editor Everett Themer. You can also check out my latest blog there as well, and if you've had a sighting you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. We also got great video viewing from UFO Seekers Tim Doyle and Contact TV from Leslie Mitchell Clark. Tonight, we get into the idealism of alien abduction and contact. The great alien debate. Is it good, bad, or completely indifferent? We have had stories of horror, from Hollywood movies right down to the personal experience. But what is right? There are a number of people out there who believe that there are good extraterrestrials out there, like yours truly. Then there are those, like our guest tonight, who believe otherwise. So what is the alien agenda? Taking people against their will in the middle of the night really isn't winning off-worlders any favors in the public eye, especially by those who've been abducted against their will. For the last number of years, our guest, Derek Tyler, has been looking into cases of alien abduction. He emphatically states that there is nothing good to come of this. Nothing. So what's the truth? Why the negativity about contact? Let's find out. Derek Tyler, welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. You'll be joining us for the first 2 hours of the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on the show.
I'm pretty excited, but I got to tell you, man, I'm coming into this a little downtrodden right now. A little downtrodden because I just checked the weather forecast. And man, we're not even halfway through October yet, and we're already slated for snow up here.
Oh boy, that can't be good.
The only one in my family who's going to love this is my dog. Okay? Because he absolutely loves the snow. He's going to go haywire crazy for this when it falls. But either way, I'm not ready for snow yet, man. I'm still wearing shorts, and I haven't even opened up my sock drawer in months.
Yeah. Well, we don't get too much of that down here in Seattle, so I like that. I don't like the snow too much myself.
Well, when I lived closer to Vancouver, it was good because we had the same weather conditions as Seattle. Yeah. But now that I moved up north a couple of years ago, my goodness, man, it's, I'm just not ready for snow. I don't want snow yet. Is that wrong?
Well, move up north, that's what you're going to get.
I know. But I got a lot of Sasquatch up here, so that's okay. My friend, let's learn a little bit about you. I always like to introduce the guest to the audience. Tell us a little bit about you, because when you go down this rabbit hole, whether it's paranormal, whether it's ET contact, UFOs, government conspiracy, whatever it may be, there's always a backstory behind it. So what is your story?
Well, I had a sighting. The first sighting I had, I was probably about 5 years old. But the sighting that really changed things for me happened in 1984 when I was in my mid-20s. And I saw an alien spacecraft hover beside a specialized hospital. It was just right above the ground, and it was, most of the times these sightings only last for a minute or so at the most. But this one, as it turned out, lasted for 42 minutes. And the last 22 minutes of the time, it was being buzzed by a pair of F-16s that came from an Air Force base near Spokane. So that really changed my life, because there was no longer any possibility of telling me that aliens weren't here, because there was no question of what I was looking at. That the craft was probably twice the circumference as the length of an F-16. It was brightly lit up. There was no question what it was. The F-16s were buzzing it like mad hornets. They didn't shoot at it, but they were clearly not happy. And that's what got things started for me. Then I wanted, of course, to learn everything that I could about it. And I ended up making some good contacts over the years. I've interviewed over 3,000 other contactees and abductees. I'm an abductee myself, both an alien abductee and a military abductee. And I've made some friends and some contacts on the inside who've given me some very interesting information about the situation. And I wrote a book about this that I published a year ago. It's the first volume of a multi-book set. It's called Alien Contact: The Difficult Truth. It's available on Amazon. And it went to become a number one bestseller, which is almost unheard of for an independent book publication.
Now, when you started having your experiences, how old were you when this started for you?
Well, I apparently had been an abductee for a long time without realizing it. But the first time that I had a memory of it was probably only about maybe 12 years ago or so. But I'd shown, without realizing it, I'd shown the signs of being an abductee since I was at least a teenager. For instance, I was burning out streetlights by coming near them, which is very typical of abductees. It happens to many of us. I don't think we burn them out permanently, but you cause them to blink off when you come near them. And that had been happening to me since I was probably 17 that I know of.
Well, I'm an ET abductee as myself. So I think we're going to have an interesting conversation about this tonight in regards to it. And I'm not looking for a huge debate here, but we are going to get into the reason why you feel there is no good ET contact.
Well, that's not what I've never said that. But just to be clear, I've never said there was no such thing as a good ET contact. I've said there's no such thing as a friendly abduction, which is a different thing.
My mistake, then. My mistake. But let's get into the subject then. When you started learning about your own experiences that you were taken, what did you go through mentally and physically before you decided to look into what was happening?
Well, I knew immediately what was happening because I'd already interviewed several thousand abductees by that time. And so there was no question in my mind as to what was happening. I didn't have to go through what a lot of people do, wondering whether they're crazy or et cetera. It was clear immediately to me what was happening. And I guess after that, I went through what probably most abductees go through. You go through a period where you'll do anything you can think of just to try to get it to stop. Because they were coming for me at one point as many as 3 times a week. And that's a lot. And at first you try to never sleep. You think that maybe if you can stay awake all night, it'll stop them from coming. It doesn't work, but you try it anyway because they can put you to sleep whenever they decide it's necessary. So after a while, you get exhausted, you get shell-shocked, and there's not really any support system, as you know, for people that are abductees. There's nobody to really talk to about it. So you've gone through a very traumatic experience or series of experiences, and you don't have any support system at all. You have to just get through it yourself, and it's not an easy thing. And eventually, you'll try anything that you can think of to try to just stop it from happening again. And it's a very difficult thing. There's no doubt.
So for people who don't understand the difference between contact and abduction, could you break that down for us?
Well, a contact is a voluntary event. An abduction is where you're literally taken usually from your bedroom. They'll come into your bedroom in the middle of the night. They have the ability to come right through the walls and doors. Locked doors and windows don't stop extraterrestrials because they can teleport right into your room, and they can take you out right the same way. So that is it's not only an unfriendly event. Under our laws, it's a capital crime. There's nothing friendly about being abducted from your home in the middle of the night by people who weren't invited there. A friendly contact, people have been invited aboard alien craft. People have been contacted by aliens who were friendly and non-threatening to them. And all of those I would classify as friendly contacts, but they are the minority of contacts.
Why do you think the friendly contact is the minority?
Well, it seems to me that the aliens who are friendly to us, and there are, as we might expect, this is a big galaxy, and there are aliens of all kinds out there. You know, we're literally surrounded by different types of aliens, and they all have their own reasons for coming here. And we can expect that there are going to be some that are friendly, some that are not, some that are neutral. And that seems to be the case. But it seems to me that the aliens who are, who seem to have a predisposition to be friendly towards us are either not in the majority, or they're lacking in the power or the ability to do a lot to help us. They make contact sometimes, but I don't know of any examples where they've actually assisted us on a global basis. Maybe there are some, but I've never found any. I mean, there are examples of alien technology which we've been given, but that seems to be as a result of a treaty that the United States government signed with aliens who turned out to not be friendly. So I think it's a matter of them. My personal opinion is I just don't think that they have the power to do so. I think they're outpowered and they're outnumbered. They don't control the battlefield, let's say.
Do you believe that treaty with Eisenhower back in, I believe, 47 or 57?
Yeah, it was in the late 50s. Yeah, I do. I've spoken to someone who works for the Pentagon. He's a high-level officer there, and he's given me details about the treaty. It does exist.
Oh, you can't just not go into those juicy details now, Derek. you have to fill us in, because I'll tell you, I had heard about that story, and then early on when we did this show, probably in month number 2, I had Laura Eisenhower on the show, and we talked about Ike's deal with extraterrestrials. So break it down from what you heard from insider information, if you don't mind.
All right, this is what I understand. Many people have described this treaty as basically outlining the terms of our surrender, and it is difficult to disagree with that in a lot of ways. As it was explained to me, we agreed that they would have the ability to overfly our country and do what they wanted, go where they wanted without being hassled, which we couldn't stop them from doing anyway. We agreed that we would construct, either on our own or with their assistance, a number of underground and underwater bases for their use. Some of them were for joint use between us and the aliens, and we would allow them to abduct a certain number of our citizens every year, and we would allow them to actually kill any of our citizens or any types of animals or something that they found which was genetically defective, determined by them and us to be genetically defective. They were allowed to terminate them, and they did. And in return, they agreed to give us periodically advances in technology. Primarily, they were interested in military technology, of course, and that was basically what was agreed to. And both sides agreed not to go public with the existence of alien presence here on Earth, because that was going to make both sides' job quite a bit more difficult if the public was aware of what was going on. And as I understand it, both sides were intending to break this treaty even as they signed it. The aliens abducted far more people than they were officially allowed to. Some of the technology that they gave us either didn't work or wouldn't work without specialized parts that they didn't supply us, that they had to supply themselves and operate themselves. And we, in our turn, we plan to try to take some of this alien technology and convert it into weapons that we could use against them. But even so, and this, as I understand it, this treaty has been modified several times over the years.
Yes.
To make it slightly more fair to us, because it wasn't very fair to us at all. But we are still basically bound under the terms of this treaty. We can't stop them from flying over the country. We can't really compete with their level of technology for their craft. Our weapons aren't going to compare with theirs. We can't stop them from abducting people. And so at the time, the position was we might as well take the best deal that we can get and try to get a little technology out of it if we can. And I think that's what they did.
Now, was this treaty just for people in the United States, or was this a worldwide treaty? Because there is some debate about that. And I've talked to Butch Witkowski on this show numerous times during his segment, and both on the air and off the air. He actually read an FBI stat that there is approximately around 65,000 Americans a year that just disappear without a trace. And the FBI, one of his sources told him, truly believes that many of those 65,000 are actually being abducted and taken off this planet. Would you say that is a factual statistic?
Yes, I wouldn't disagree with that. There are a lot of reasons that they abduct people, and it's true that not all of them are returned back. Some of them are, but many of them are not. They're not found useful for perhaps for hybridization purposes, let's say, but they can be terminated. They can be sold on a black market for slaves, or they can be transported to somewhere else and used for other purposes. They can be consumed, it's said.
It is scary indeed with that. So with this contract that is there, once again, is it just for the United States, or is that worldwide?
This was, first of all, it was an illegal treaty because it was taken without the advice and consent or the agreement of Congress. So it was an unconstitutional treaty in the first place, and yet we were bound by it. They did not have the ability to speak for the world by any means. It applied only to the United States. But its effects, I think that its effects have been worldwide, because there's nobody in this world who is not affected by the extraterrestrial presence, whether they realize it or not.
I understand that it is illegal, and we have debated that many a times on this show, that if disclosure did happen, whether or not people who are contactees and abductees, more so abductees, could sue the federal government.
Well, they can't, because even though we were guaranteed the right to sue the government in the Constitution, as the man from the Pentagon said to me, who are you going to sue? You don't have any names. You can't prove anything. They make sure when they abduct you that you can't prove anything. You can't prove that you were abducted. How could you possibly prove it? So you don't have anyone to sue. You don't have any names to mention. You don't have any proof that you've been abducted, and you don't have any proof that the government was involved in it. If they say documents don't exist, how can you prove they do? They're classified. We can't get to them. So I don't think that that's ever going to happen, and I don't personally think that full disclosure is ever going to happen within our lifetimes. I think that is the last option that the government will ever use, because it's all downside from their point of view. There's probably dozens of reasons that they would choose not to do full public disclosure, and probably any one of them would be enough to convince them to keep the lid on.
It is good news, though. Totally off topic. Mrs. SOR just walked into my studio here and brought me a caramel sundae from Dairy Queen.
That's good news.
That is very good news. Very good news. And so I'm pretty happy about that. But I love the alien talk, and I love getting into this subject because since April 15th of 2014, this has been a very, very close subject to my heart. That's the first time I saw an extraterrestrial. And, when people are taken, there is so much that can happen. When's the last time when you were taken?
Oh, well, they don't take me nearly as much now as they did at one time. I probably get taken maybe twice a year now, but at one time it was up to 3 times a week, and that was quite stressful, and it was very exhausting. I think that I still have probably PTSD from that whole event sequence. It's hard not to. And I think that most abductees end up with some form of PTSD. I'm real jumpy, small noises will startle me like that. So I think that that's probably a permanent effect. I don't really know how to get rid of that. But my experiences with the aliens were with the classic ETs, the little big-eyed grays, and with the military. Probably over half of my abductions were of the military type, and they were equally as unpleasant as were the grays.
Well, we'll get into the whole MyLab situation as well. Last time I was taken was Saturday night.
Oh boy! By the ETs or by the military?
No, this was alien. This was alien, and that's probably, I'm going to say, the first real negative experience that I can think that I've had. Wasn't too happy about it, put it that way.
Well, there's nothing good about being abducted, and my best advice to abductees is some research try to encourage them to take hypnotic regression to try to remember what happened to them, because of course the memories are typically erased. Sometimes they're not completely erased, but most of them are erased, even in people who have retained abduction memories. My best advice is don't undergo hypnotic regression, because you don't want to remember what happened to you during an abduction. Thank the gods that you don't remember, because it's intrusive, terrifying, painful. It's nothing that you want to put yourself through again by the process of remembering it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember it.
Right. So you would probably advise people that the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons that you'd wish to not remember those things that happened to you then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And later on in the show, no offense, I'm going to break that story down in hour number 3 when you've disappeared. No offense.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to tune on in, you can hear it. But I got to save something for that. But nonetheless, when people have that experience, are you noticing that most people who are abducted, and everyone you have talked to, have been lifelong contactees? Or do you notice a lot of people who are, say, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, getting taken for the first time?
No. Most of the time it's lifelong. And it's very, very possible that that's the case with me as well, and that I just didn't retain any memories of it back then, because most of the time people are abducted and they'll never know it at all. Most people who are abductees will never realize it, because the memories will be completely erased from their mind and they'll never have a reason to suspect it. Most people are typically taken around the age of 7 for the first time, and it continues mostly throughout their adult life. It continues with women up until menopause, when it typically will stop. And men are often not abducted quite so often as women are, but sometimes they do. And it'll typically go on with men up until 50s or 60s too. It's hard to tell how many times a person will be taken, but sometimes they're taken quite often. And the military seems to abduct the same people that the aliens do. They seem to have a way to know who's being taken, and they come after the same folks.
Well, you know what? Thank goodness I haven't had the military show up for me yet, as far as I know. They may have. I just don't know yet. But when someone gets abducted, what should they be looking for? Because there's a lot of people out there who think they have, but they're not sure. You know, they're not sure if it was a dream or if it was just a wild imagination or maybe a night terror. You know what I'm saying? How do they know the real thing that is happening to them?
Well, there's really no reason for a human to dream of being abducted by an alien. It's not part of our common experience. It's not something that should enter into a dream state. And so most of the time, if you're dreaming of that, it's probably a shielded memory rather than a dream. there are a number of things that are indicators. One of them is if you happen to wake up with a bloody nose, that's something that happens often to abductees because they will sometimes inject implants up into the top of your sinus cavities. And people will wake up with bloody noses. They'll sometimes wake up with scratches on their skin or 3 puncture holes in the shape of a triangle. It's pretty common. Sometimes abductees will have a tendency to burn out either streetlights that will flick off when you get near them, or you'll burn out electronics a lot quicker than they ought to be burning out. For instance, I've been burning out computers every year and a half since personal computers came on the market, and they shouldn't be burning out that fast, but they do. They just burn out. Some people burn out electric watches really fast. That's another possibility. If you have dreams of levitating or floating, that's another common indicator. Sometimes people will, when they're kids, they'll imagine that they see pirates or robbers around their bed, or they'll have dreams of animals with big, dark or glowing eyes, like owls or wolves or something like that. Those are pretty common symptoms from people that have been abducted. It's there are some others, but those are pretty typical, and I think that those are, if you have several of those things going on at once, there's a pretty good chance. If you're a woman and you happen to have had a spontaneous miscarriage when you were 3 months pregnant, that's a very strong indicator that you've been abducted and that you were carrying a hybridized child.
What's the strangest experience you personally recall?
Oh, well, there's a couple of them, I guess. One of them, when we're abducted, they keep us in a very zombified, I would call it, condition. It's almost like you've been lobotomized. You don't have the ability to take actions on your own or to think. You can't even think up the plan that it might be a good idea to try to escape if you get a chance. It doesn't even occur to you. You're very docile and passive. One time, they were leading me through this craft, the aliens, and I saw at this corner of my eye there was an open door into another room. It's like a storage room or something, and I saw these 6 figures lined up heel to toe, and their heads were bowed forward like they were androids that had been shut off, or robots that had been never turned on or something. And there was something familiar about them, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And then just as we were passing by the door, it occurred to me that they were all copies of me. I was looking at about a half a dozen identical copies of myself, and they looked like they were robots that had never been powered on. I found out later that they have the ability to make what are called synthetic beings, they're similar to clones, except that clones have to be raised up from infancy, and synthetic beings start their life at the same physical age as the person is when the cell sample is taken. But as I understand it, they don't have consciousness initially. They have to have that injected into them somehow, and the aliens have the ability to do that. They have the other strange thing that happened to me in the same abduction event was that they literally have the ability to remove your entire consciousness from your body, your soul, if you like, and to store it, and then they can inhabit your body with their own consciousness if they want to. This is the level of technology that we're talking about. And they did that to me. They took my soul out of my body. They stored it in a container of some kind. I assume it was like a Faraday cage of some kind. And my consciousness was put back into my body after a time. After I don't know what they did with my body during the meantime. I have no idea. But that's a very powerful technology to have, and they have it, and I believe the military has it too.
Do you have any tests or anything that people can do in order to tell whether or not they've been taken that night?
Oh, there's no tests that you can tell for sure. If there was, the secrecy would be too easy to break. So it's I don't think that there's any surefire test that you can perform on yourself, but there's a list online. You can find it of, I think it's 52 abduction indicators. Just because you have a couple of them doesn't necessarily mean that you're abducted. But if you have, some of them are more important than others. The ones that I mentioned are more reliable, I think, than some of the other indications. If you've got several of those going on, then there's a good chance that you are an abductee. And there are a lot more abductees than people would imagine. There are millions or tens of millions at least.
I laugh at that test, not because I'm making fun of it, but I took that test. Guess what my score was?
Oh, it's hard selling.
Well, it's out of 52. I scored a 46 out of 52.
Well, and you're an abductee, aren't you?
I'm pretty sure that I am an abductee and a contactee as well.
And you probably have been for all your life, whether you know it or not.
The first time that I was told through a psychic medium that is a good friend of mine, and I was told this a number of years ago, even about 2 years before, about a year before I started Spaced Out Radio, that the first time I was taken, like you said, was 7 years old. And I have, been taken ever since. Now, I didn't really buy into that whole concept until I walked face-to-face into an extraterrestrial in April of 2014. But, experiences happen in all ways, shapes, or forms. One of the tests, Derek, that I was told to try is a coin test. And what you're supposed to do, and I was told this by one of my former guests, is put 2 coins on your nightstand or on your desk or somewhere where you can not touch them. And the theory behind it is you put them side by side, and you say, if I get taken, kind of put it out there every night in your prayers or whatever you do, that if you take the coins and they're side by side, if you wake up to the coins stacked, that means they either stacked them, that they took you, or you stacked them when you got back. So you mentally build it into your mind that that's what's going to happen. I've had 5 people try that out, and 5 people have woken up when they thought they had been taken, have woken up to the coins stacked.
I've never heard of that before, and I can't imagine that they would do you the service of stacking the coins just to please you.
Well, and that's it. And that's exactly it. Like, I did this with people whom I trusted that I could get proper answers from. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I can't imagine why they would do that, because they're not there to please you or to do anything to help you at all. The truth of it is. I mean, I used to go so far as, I used to pin a note to my shirt. After a while, I got so sick of being abducted. And you can tell sometimes, there gets to be a point where you can tell when they're going to come, because the energy changes. And you can tell that they're almost certainly going to come for you that night. You can't stop it, but you can know that they're going to be coming. I would pin a little note to my shirt that says, look, we both know that I'm going to be up in your laboratory, your medical lab tonight. So I haven't complained. I've been a good sport. While you're up there, would you mind fixing my athlete's foot for me before you bring me back? I know you can do it. It's no problem. But didn't work.
No. Yet some people get these free surgeries up there. That
well,
helps.
I got some free surgeries, but they were nothing for my benefit. I mean, they're not there to help us. The ATs who claim to be here to help us don't really seem to help us much. They talk about it a lot, apparently, but there are not a lot of concrete things you can say that they've done to actually help us. If someone was going to come from another world to help us, or another dimension, as it may be, to help us, I would think that the first thing that would happen is the amount of abductions would go down, and I would think that somebody might be helping us, for instance, clean up Fukushima before it kills everything in the ocean, or some other things. But those things don't seem to be happening.
What about owls? A lot of people seem to see owls out there before they get abducted. Have you ever looked into that theory?
Yeah, oftentimes that's a screen memory that they put in place. It's something with big eyes that takes the place of a gray, when they were actually seeing a gray alien. And a lot of times they'll put screen memories in your mind to confuse you or to make you think that something happened which really didn't. They'll change your memory. And owls are one of the classic things. Also wolves, because they can be seen with big glowing eyes in the dark.
See, and around here we just get deer. It's all deer around here. Geez, a couple weeks ago I was standing in my carport looking up because the northern lights had been out. And I'm standing in my carport looking up at the, just underneath the balcony, looking up to see if I could see the northern lights. And all of a sudden I hear this noise. And I didn't have my flashlight on me, so I had to use that little dinky thing on my iPhone. And there's nothing scarier than when you look right in front, about 20 feet away, and all of a sudden there's eyes staring back at you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I'm like, deer, please be a deer, please be a deer. And then the deer hopped the fence and walked right by me. So I was okay with that. But it could have been ugly, man, because there is not a single street light on my street.
Oh, boy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's... I mean, if you ever happen to meet an alien when you're not expecting it, if you're out and about, the best advice in the world is vacate. Don't interfere with them. Don't approach them. Don't try to approach an alien spacecraft if you see one land. Don't bother them, and don't get in their way, because you don't know who's in there. You don't know what their intentions are. And if you become a target of opportunity through your own actions, that might be the last thing you end up doing.
Gee whiz. I'm guilty of everything you just said. I'm guilty of everything you just said. It's terrible. I got called outside by a ship on April 10th, 2014. It was beautiful. It turned its lights off and on my command 3 times. 5 days later, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, not a cloud in the sky. And I came within 200 feet of an extraterrestrial that was 10 to 12 feet tall. And we just stared at each other. And my friend Samantha Mowat, who is a lifelong ET contactee, she was with me. And they telepathically told her, you guys are more than welcome to come over and say hello. However, we are concerned about the man's health.
Well, it's an interesting thing. I mean, if they invite you aboard their craft, that's a completely different situation than if you're taken there by force.
Oh, absolutely.
And something like that, you just have to use your own judgment. But you always have to keep in mind that you are outsmarted, you are outgunned, you are outexperienced. You are never going to have any kind of an advantage in a situation where you run up against an extraterrestrial. So caution is called for in all cases, I think.
Have you ever heard the clicking sounds?
The clicking sounds?
Yes.
I'm not sure what you mean.
The sound they make, the Greys make.
I have not heard that myself. I know someone that has. My girlfriend has heard that before.
Yes. We had it in my backyard about a month and a bit ago.
Really?
Yes.
Yes, it's just sort of a guttural sound that they make because normally they are pure telepaths, and that seems to just be an effect of air coming in and out of their mouth when they open their mouths.
I can tell you this, it is a very strange sound. It happened on a night when I was talking with Olaf Phillips about the secret space program. And see, around here, I don't know if you're familiar with our show. I know you have mentioned you've listened to it once or twice, but around here, we have our resident extraterrestrial. We've nicknamed him Carl. Now Carl showed up at my window on April 20th, 2015, while I was broadcasting this show. And I was about 7 feet away from him, and he was a large-headed gray with giant black almond eyes. It was pretty trippy. Well, Carl came back with his friends that night while I was broadcasting the show, because you being an abductee and contactee, you'll understand when I say this, that there is a feeling you get when you know they're around. You know what I'm saying by that?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it was about 11:27, 11:28 that night, and I got the feeling.
It's almost like the air becomes electrically charged in a way.
Absolutely. So I went outside after the show with Olaf because I'm like, I knew it was Carl. Just recognized the energy pattern right there. So I go outside after the show, and I have both my vehicles parked in my driveway kind of slopes down, and parked in the lower end of my driveway. And I see like these two Nike swooshes, like almost like in a yin and yang symbol, go west to east between my vehicles, and then about 2 minutes later go east to west. And that's where I decided I needed to go up on my patio. So I got a hold of a good friend of this show. His name is R. Keith Andrews.
Get a hold of a good 12 gauge, too.
Well, apparently, I'm hearing this clicking sound going on. Kind of thing, right? And one is up my driveway, the other one's in my backyard, and Keith all of a sudden says, "By the way, Dave, have you heard any strange noises going on?" I'm like, yeah. I said, yes, like a clicking sound. And he goes, "Does it sound like this?" And he did this thing with his throat, man. And I'm like, that's it. That's the sound. And as soon as he said that, this clicking sound started again in my backyard and up my driveway. So I had these guys communicating. And Keith, who's been a lifelong ET contactee, says, "Yeah, they're a little startled with you right now." And I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because they're used to humans running away, and you're standing your ground, and they're not sure what to do."
Well, I don't know if you realize this. Those Greys they're genetically engineered life forms. Did you know that?
Yes.
They're more like what's the word I'm looking for? They're more like a genetic robot, let's say. Then they're not a naturally occurring race or anything. They're used like slaves, basically, to do the dirty work. So they're sort of a bionic robot, let's say. And so they are easily confused because they have like a group consciousness. And when you do something that they're not expecting, they don't know how to react to it. And so it'll take them a few seconds to telepathically contact whoever's in control of them and ask them what they should do. And that's typically when, if you have the chance to run, you should be running. Because as far as I know, there's really nothing good about contact with those little Greys. They're not there to help you in any shape or form. They're there to carry out a mission that they've been given, and they will absolutely do it. They have no compassion. They have no sympathy. They have no remorse. They don't care if you hurt. They don't care if you're afraid. What they care about is doing what they've been assigned to do, and that's what they're going to do regardless of your pain or misery or fear or anything. They don't care about that. It simply isn't. It doesn't concern them at all.
So who is controlling the Greys then?
Well, that's a good question, because it seems to me that our military has their own set of Greys now too. There have been several times when I've been abducted by the military when they've had at least 2 Greys with them, working for them. So the military would appear to have their own Greys, and as I understand it, these Greys they're produced underground in labs sometimes I guess by the thousands. But it's said that sometimes the reptilians control them, and sometimes it's said that the other type of Greys, the Zeta Reticuli Greys, which are the type which is associated with the Roswell event, also can control some of these Greys. But they're basically sent out to do the dirty work so that the race that controls them doesn't have to.
What about somebody like Dan Burrish, Dr. Dan Burrish, whether you believe his story or not? He says he worked at Area 51 and worked with one of the J-Rod aliens that was a typical Grey, about a 4 to 5 foot Grey, and he actually, in his opinion, helped get this J-Rod the ability to escape Area 51. Do you buy into stories like that?
Well, I don't know. It's a story that's one of a kind. I've spoken to someone who said they'd vetted Dan Burrish and that he was the real thing. I spoke to John Lear, who doesn't believe it at all. So it's tough to say. It doesn't seem to be the kind of story that someone would just make up, But I've heard it said by others that J-Rod was for real, and maybe it's so. But I wouldn't think that he was one of the classic ETs, because they really don't have. They're just more like they're more like robots. They're more like insects. Let's say like hive insects. They have the same kind of mentality as that. They don't really make decisions on their own. They're told what to do and they do it. They're basically, as I understand it, as it was explained to me by the gentleman at the Pentagon, they were originally an experiment in creating biological life, and they were considered to be a failure, so they were relegated to slave status.
A lot of people tend to believe, though, if they are taken, that by announcing or invoking Jesus Christ's name, that these abductions can get stopped almost immediately. What do you know about that?
Well, try anything you can think of. I think anyone who's been abducted has probably tried that, because I guarantee you, folks out there in Radio Land, we will try anything that we can think of to get it to stop. And if you're an atheist, that won't stop you from trying it, because eventually you'll be desperate enough that you will try it. It didn't work for me. Some people say it has worked, but there is something that, interestingly, that did work for me that I've never heard anyone else talk about. And it almost caused the abductions to completely stop in my case. And that was, I have a friend who's a Native American medicine woman, right? A shaman. And there came a time when I happened to tell her about my abductions, and she got mad. She says, "I'll put a stop to that." She said, "I'll send my animal spirits out to protect you, and that'll put a stop to that." And I don't know what she did. I don't know how she did it. But as of that day, my abductions went from 3 times a week to about twice a year at the most. And now they're almost always military abductions, not alien abductions. So I don't know what she did, but it was very effective, and nothing else I've ever tried was effective at all.
Do you believe that there is that would prove in your case, for you, maybe not on a big-time scientific level, but for you it would prove that there is some sort of tie-in between the spiritual realm and what is happening on the extraterrestrial realm?
Well, there absolutely is. We are engaged in spiritual warfare right now. That's a very big part of this. The astral plane, as it's called, it does exist. It is a plane of energy, and the extraterrestrials are very familiar with it. They're very active there, and they are engaged in spiritual warfare with us. It's not just about physical abductions. They can abduct your astral body without ever taking your physical body, and they do it, and so does the military do it. This is a very deep, complicated subject, and it's very far from being black and white, but the abilities that these aliens have, and some of the abilities which they have made available to our military, are far beyond science fiction, sir.
So as we wind down hour number 1 here, and we got about 2.5 minutes left, what do you think in that spiritual realm, being spiritual warfare, what do you think the cause of this is? Is it a battle versus good versus evil, as we believe biblically, between God and the devil? Does it have anything to do with that tie?
Well, I think that aliens were probably identified as demons and angels in the past, certainly, because they didn't have any other points of reference. And there are some ways where you could certainly see why it would be done. I don't think that we're dealing literally with angels or devils here, because it's been proven that they can be killed. They live, they die, they can be shot, they can be killed in saucer crashes. They're mortals, but they are also very often hyperdimensional mortals. I mean, where they come from isn't from here, and they have the ability to cross through into our dimension, and it gives them powers and abilities far beyond anything we possess. And so, as far as them being the gods that created the universe, no, I don't think that's the case. But as far as them having, compared to us having godlike powers, a lot of times they probably do. But we're dealing with mortal beings, but they're not like us. They don't think like us. Many of them are not from our dimension. They come through from other dimensions into our dimension for various reasons. And yes, there are definitely good aliens. There are bad aliens, and they seem to be fighting between themselves. And often they seem to be fighting over us. For some reason, our genetics are valuable to them, and that could very well be the only reason that we've been left alive as long as we have. In many ways, we are an ant farm being overseen by aliens. And we're surrounded. We can't get out of here. We can't even go past low Earth orbit without permission. And that's why nobody's done it in 40 years. You haven't seen a manned, publicly announced manned mission in over 40 years. There have been some missions which have taken place that the public's not aware of. But we don't go out into outer space without their permission, because they control our solar system. We don't. They control the moon, not us. They control Mars, not us.
Right.
It's not a big universe just waiting for us to go out and inhabit it.
All right, Derek, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Derek Tyler is our guest tonight, ET abductee, researcher, author on the subject of extraterrestrial contact and abduction. We're going to get into MyLabs. We're going to get into so much more and your questions. I know they're piling up in the chat rooms. If I miss them, make sure you repost them, because I definitely want to get Derek your questions. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Hour number 2 with Derek Tyler coming up right after this.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Want a place to share your experiences without feeling judged? We have the place for you. If you've experienced sightings or contact with ETs, ghosts, cryptids, or UFOs, and you'd like someone to confidentially look into the matter, just fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our goal is to help you get the answers you need to the experiences you've had with our professional team of researchers. Your information stays 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines report. Fill out your experience today only at spacedoutradio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, author C.L. Swinney is going to join us. We're going to talk about Canadian serial killer Robert Pickton tomorrow night and the disaster that he caused on Vancouver's downtown east side with over 60 missing women. It's going to be an interesting show indeed. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us as well. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Now this can go two ways. Scurry Funge or Scurry Fungi. Scurry Fungi. Let's call it Scurry Fungi, because Scurry Funge just doesn't sound right. Bill sets a password each and every night, right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you could do so on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag of Spaced Out Radio as well. If you want to connect live with me during the show as well, give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also join us for live chat during the show in the SOR Space Travelers group. All you got to do is sign up for that. We're also on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. You could tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. We're also on TalkStream Live and iHeartRadio in the United States. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can rock out to some Bumblefoot, read The Encounter online, watch UFO Seekers or Contact TV videos, and so much more. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. Derek Tyler is our guest tonight. He's an author, he's an ET abductee, contactee, and a researcher of the topic as well. Derek, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, and we're glad you're here as well. Tell us where our audience can find your book.
Well, it's available on Amazon. It's called Alien Contact, The Difficult Truth. And there will be a second volume coming out probably within the next couple of months that will be called Alien Contact Paradigm Shift. And I guarantee you that no matter how long you've been studying this, there are going to be things in both of these books which will be completely new to you. They are absolutely as true as I have the ability to make them. There's no fiction. There's nothing that's been exaggerated or invented at all, because I think that this topic is far too important to lie about. I think it's far too important to make things up and publish them as being true when they're not. We simply don't have the time and the luxury to do that. So as far as I'm concerned, everything in my book is the straight scoop as much as I have the ability to give it. So there's no one that's going to be disappointed if they buy this book. It's almost got a full 5-star rating after a year.
I do have to ask, just out of my own curiosity, did we meet last year at the Forest Moon Paracon in Concrete, Washington?
I believe we might have done so, yes.
I believe we did, yes. So about time.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we did. And
absolutely.
That's the only conference that I've been at, as a matter of fact.
You know, during the break, I actually put 2 and 2 together there. And I was like, holy crap, we did meet.
Yeah, we did.
You know, so, no, that's good to know. I mean, it took us long enough.
2 weeks after my book had been published that conference took place.
Well, I'm glad it's finally time that we got you on the show, because I had said to you at the conference that we needed to get you on. So, better late than never. I'll say that. Better late than never.
I'd forgotten about that until you mentioned it, but you're absolutely right.
Excellent.
I think you gave me one of your cards, as a matter of fact.
Well, good to know. Good to know. We're good friends. We're old friends here. We're old friends here now in the mighty SOR headquarters here for tonight's show. Now, Derek, one of the questions I do want to ask, okay, is in regards to alien abduction. A lot of people for the last number of years have made a lot of fun, from South Park to radio shows, about Whitley Strieber's communion and the stories he had in there. The most famous one, or infamous one, was about anal probing. Now, normally I don't get into that topic here on the show, okay, because too many people, you know, it just sets off. It's like when I say gnomes, and now that I've said gnomes, I'm going to get hammered on Twitter and in the chat rooms about gnomes, because everybody knows I hate the little bastards. But nonetheless, a lot of people make fun of the whole ET contactee, abductee scenario because of the whole anal probing thing. But there are other surgeries that go on as well. Do you know people?
Yes. I should say, personally, I don't believe a word Whitley Strieber says myself. I've been an abductee far too long, and I've interviewed far too many abductees to believe his stories. I think what he's doing is he's taking some well-known facts about abductions, and he's surrounding them with fiction, and he's publishing them as being true. But I will never believe that they're true. The things that he has said, many of the things that he's said, no abductee that I've ever spoken with has even described anything even relatively close to the things that he says, and they don't make sense to me. And so I think that he is basically a fiction writer that's made millions of dollars publishing fiction and saying it's the truth. And he's sprinkling in some well-known facts, such as the anal probes and some others, to make it more believable. But no, I don't believe the word that guy says, basically.
But in regards to the surgeries that are going on, when you talk about whether it's anal probing, whether it's, we always see, like in Fire in the Sky, the depiction of needles going into eyeballs, things like that. We look at the disgusting things that these extraterrestrials are doing to human beings. Have we ever been able to figure out what the purpose is of all of this?
Well, some of them I don't think we know. At least those of us in the civilian world don't know. But one of the things with the eyeballs is that's what we are made to believe happened, but it's not really what happens. They make it seem as though that's what they're prepared to do. In my case, they made it seem as though they were getting ready to literally cut my eyes out of my head. And I thought that they had done so, because after that my memories became inconsistent and unreliable, and I didn't remember anything after that. So I assumed that it had been done. But I learned later that what they're doing is they're trying to invoke as much fear in us as possible for the purpose of making our bodies release a maximum amount of adrenaline. And what they're doing then is they're taking a tube of blood from us and they're giving it to the Greys, who swirl it around in their mouths, and they seem to get high from the adrenaline in our bloodstream. So it's nothing pleasant. It's nothing good to talk about, but we're not dealing with friends here by any means. Anyone who's harvesting and consuming your blood and terrorizing you to the maximum extent possible just to get your body to pump as much adrenaline into your bloodstream as it possibly can. There's nothing friendly about that, and there's nothing in that is going to assist us in any way. It's purely service to self.
I want to get to some audience questions here. This one comes from Twitter, and this comes from John T., and he is asking, Derek, have you ever seen the movie Jupiter Rising? If so, do you think it's an accurate depiction of extraterrestrials?
As a matter of fact, I haven't seen that movie, and I'm going to watch it this week for the first time. I've heard that it's a good movie, but I've not personally seen it. I wish I had. I wish I had a good answer to that.
I haven't seen it either. I'm not a movie guy. And, after the whole learning the truth of Fire in the Sky, how Hollywood really made a mockery, if we can call it that, of Travis Walton's story.
Yeah.
I've tuned out all extraterrestrial movies since then.
If you ever want to hear an interesting song, there's a song by Van Halen when Sammy Hagar was the singer, which almost nobody realized this, but it was about alien abductions. It's called Love Walks In. He's not really talking about love, and love is not what came walking in. That's a song about being abducted by aliens.
Well, he did recently come out earlier this year and say that he has been a lifelong ET contactee, and he said in the article, and was quoted as saying he's had contact with beings from what he called 7th to 9th dimension. Yeah,
I'm not surprised. I mean, I don't know a lot about the number of dimensions there are, but they say there are many of them, and they say that some of these beings are from those dimensions. There's little question that we are dealing with interdimensional entities here that have the ability to come into our reality and to vanish from it at will. And that's why a lot of times you'll see alien craft which seem to instantly appear out of nowhere and vanish into nowhere at the same time. And that's also the reason that a lot of these alien craft will be seen to wobble. They almost have a wobbly or bouncing motion when they're moving. It's because they are warping in and out of our dimension as we watch them.
Now, I am going to mention to our Spreaker crowd in the chat room right now, if you could do me a favor and repost your questions. I know there's a bunch that I missed in hour number 1, but we take questions in hour number 2, so if you could repost them, I would appreciate that. Let's get to Dawn's question here. Derek, from your memories, did you have regression therapy, or did you just remember? If you naturally just remembered the experiences, why do you think they let you remember them?
I did not have regression therapy, and I never will have. I think one thing that helped me remember was that I seemed to wake up as soon as they brought me back many times. And when that was the case, a lot of times I would retain a memory of part of what happened during the abductions. Most of the memories have been erased, probably 95% at least. But I did have a significant number of memories, and I think that if you happen to wake up when they bring you back and you have a memory right then, you need to write it down immediately, because if you wait till morning, it'll be gone. And I think that probably one of the reasons is that they take so many people that sometimes they get sloppy. Sometimes it's like being in a manufacturing line and stamping out a bunch of toys at a cookie cutter, you know. They do it so many times in a row that they just get bored and sloppy. At least that seems to be the case, at least with the military. And sometimes the erasure of the memory is not complete. If you wait until morning, but generally you won't have any memory at all, because you'll think either that you just had a very strange, bizarre dream, or you won't remember anything of it at all. So it's really a matter of good or bad luck, I guess, depending on how you look at it, that I was able to retain the memories I did.
Shar is asking, Derek, have you ever seen other human beings being experimented on when you were abducted?
I have seen. I've seen one time a girl that I was with was abducted at the same time that I was, probably just because she was in the same vicinity when they came to get me. And there was a time when I saw human beings that I believe were being killed. There was a whole group of people that were abducted, and it's like we were standing in this round room, and they were coming for us one by one, and some people were being taken into surgery bays, as I was, and some people, it appeared that they had determined that they had no further use for these people, or they didn't want them for some reason, and they were moving them over to this. It was a vent about the size of a mail slot. This is my memory of it anyway, for what it's worth, in the wall of this room. And when they got near this vent, it was like their bodies were stretched out like spaghetti and flattened out, and they were sucked through this slot somehow, their whole body. And I was sure at the time that they were being killed. So I can't explain how or why that happened, but I was quite certain that I saw at least 10 people that were killed that way, which I think is a close encounter of the 6th or 7th kind.
All right, let's get to BTO's question. It's 2 parts. Or pardon me, this is from Venny. How do the aliens choose who to abduct?
Well, what they seem to do is they are looking for things that they consider to be primary survival characteristics in people. One thing that they look for is a lack of genetically inherited tendency towards things like heart disease or cancer. Another thing that they look for is people of high intelligence, high creativity, people who have the ability to assimilate data from seemingly unrelated places and put it all together in a way that it relates and come up with solutions that nobody's come up with before, original creative solutions, because they feel that these are going to give you the best chance to survive in an emergency or in a changing circumstances. So this is what they typically look for. If you go through a list of abductees, you'll find that many of them are highly creative, they're either gifted people or geniuses. Many of them are authors, painters, musicians, people who have a lot of creative ability and a lot of high analytical ability. And sometimes they'll find people who have very good genetics as far as being healthy, just generally long-lived. Sometimes they like people who have twins in their families. And they usually can't find all these things in any single person. But when they find some of them that they like, they'll take that person and they will continue making crossbreeds after crossbreeds to combine those things, with the genetics from other people. They are trying to create a new hybrid race. And one of the questions that people should be asking is, what's being done with all these hybrids that they are making? Where are they going? There's a lot of them. What's happening with them?
Second part of that question, what do you know or what have you learned about human hybrids then?
Well, there are a lot of human hybrids, and most of them, I don't think, realize that that's what they are. But many of these hybrids are being inserted into our population because many of them look just like we do. You can't really tell the difference, of course, because they're half human. And if you have enough hybrids and enough patients, and you insert them into the population to live and work among us and to breed with us, and you have enough patients, you can change the genetic character of the entire human race over a period of time into something which is no longer human. It's no longer entirely human. It will be part human, part alien. And I think that that's what's being done.
Is this where we seem to get a lot of people who say that these new taller grays are actually people from humans from the future who have maybe cross-pollinated or have evolved into that system, but time traveled back a couple hundred years?
Well, I don't think that's true. The part about time travel, that is true, and it's something that I might not have believed myself if I hadn't seen it myself. But they've sent me through time involuntarily several times during abduction events. But I don't think that the Greys themselves are humans from the future. I think that that's probably just something that they've probably said to try to confuse us or to convince us of something that's not really true. There's no reason to think that we would naturally evolve into that state. And they've certainly been around here long enough that if it was a mistake we made, they should have been able to fix it. I think that that's just fiction that they're telling us. There's no question that they have the ability to lie and they use it.
Let's get to Adam's question here. Is it possible the extraterrestrials can read minds and see the true you, and that is how your abduction or meeting goes?
Well, I think that that's definitely the case because some of these ETs are fully telepathic, and I believe that is why you'll never hear of a president going to Area 51. You'll never hear of any president since, I think, Kennedy being allowed to actually meet an ET face-to-face because they will basically know the entire contents of your mind, and they don't want to risk that with the president. And I've felt, several times I've felt my entire consciousness basically being downloaded, like it was being downloaded onto a computer. Right in the middle of the day, I wasn't being abducted. I wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. I don't know how to describe it except to say that if it happens to you, you'll know it. And it was just like they were downloading my memories, my thoughts, my opinions, my attitudes, everything in my mind to a disk, like to a hard disk, and which then could conceivably be injected into a synthetic being.
Mm-hmm.
And they would make an exact copy for instance, of those bodies of myself that I saw, and simply inject a copy of my consciousness into those bodies, and they would have basically an identical copy of me to work with. They could do with it whatever they wanted.
Right. This then leads to Canadian Joe's question here at #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter, who is asking, what do you believe then in the whole idea of Rh negative blood type? Do you believe it's a factor in alien abduction?
It seems to be, yes. that's something that's bandied around a lot, and it seems to be true. There's a remarkably high percentage of abductees who have had near-death experiences, and there's a remarkably high percentage who have Rh-negative blood, or either have at least one parent or one grandparent who has had Rh-negative blood. And that's all that's necessary, because even if you have one grandparent who is Rh-negative, as I do, that means that at some point you have been hybridized. Rh-negative is a blood type which should not exist, and it does not exist in any other mammals.
Do you think that Rh-negative blood is actually from human evolution, or do you think it came from elsewhere?
Well, I don't know, but it doesn't appear to be something that would have evolved. It also appears to be something which is very common in the people who run this world. If you look at the presidents and the power brokers in this world, an enormous percentage of them are Rh-negative. So it seems to be something which is in control, if you like to say it that way. I don't think, my personal opinion is it probably did not evolve naturally, no. I think that that's something which was imported. Hybridization has been going on for thousands of years. It's not just a recent phenomenon. It's been reported all over the world in historical texts.
Let's get to BTO's question then. He is asking, Derek, do you know who you are connected with in the stars, where they're from, and what do they have to share?
Nope, I don't know. I don't know that I'm connected with anyone in the stars, but they were certainly interested in me for some reason, and they came after me hard. I mean, there was a time when I was trying to never sleep. I'd go 3 or 4 days without sleeping at all, just to try to hope that I could fend them off somehow by doing that. I've never had any experiences that have made me think that I'm connected with anyone in the stars, or I just don't know about that. Apparently, that's something that maybe happens with friendly ET contacts, but I don't think it happens with negative ET contacts. I think that there are a lot of people who've been shown like visions of the end of the world or things like this. I think that a lot of those things are just done to confuse people, to deceive them. And there seems to be, this is another interesting thing. There's a test that they give you sometimes. I don't know how they do this, and I don't remember what the questions of this test were. I just remember that it didn't seem to be too difficult as far as the questions were concerned. But when they were done with this test, they appeared to have the ability to know what your answer would be to any question they ask you from then on. And so they didn't have to ask you any more questions ever, because the answers that you gave on this test gave them the ability to know what your answer would be. I don't know anything more about it than that, but it's an interesting thing, and it's been reported by others too.
As we turn into the second half hour here, you had mentioned that you are also a MyLab abductee. And I would love for you to describe to our audience who may not know what MyLab is, if you could break that down for us.
Well, MyLab is someone who's been abducted rather than by the aliens, but they've been abducted by our own military forces. And it's very commonly done. I would say probably over half the abductions now are actually taking place as a result of military activity. And I can't tell you all the reasons that they do that for, but they do not seem to be done for our benefit either. They're done for the benefit of the military and the few people who control these operations. They sometimes they seem to be giving us military type training. Sometimes they seem to be conducting their own experiments on us. And as I understand it, when a person has been abducted by aliens and they're returned to their homes, there are a period of several hours where their natural psychic abilities, if they have any, are greatly amplified. And one thing, as I understand it, that the military does, is that they will come in and abduct a person for a second time in the same night after the aliens have brought them back. Because the aliens, and presumably the military as well, have the ability to manipulate time. I only remember being brought back once by the aliens, but what they did was they brought me back at the same time that they had originally taken me, so there was no time elapsed on the clock. It was like I'd never been gone. And so you can do a lot of abducting if you can return them back through time at the same time that they left, you know. That's described in my book. And the military apparently likes to come in and take people again for the second time during the night after the aliens have returned them, and then they will make their own use of the amplified psychic abilities. For instance, they can use them as involuntary spies by the use of thought projection. What's the thing, the military program of remote viewing? They can use them as involuntary remote viewers, and they can project their thoughts into any other location and tell them what's going on there. And when the amplified psychic abilities start to wear off, they return them back home. They can also make use of them for cloning purposes, synthetic being purposes. The secret space program is very real. We've got a colony on the moon. We've got an underground colony on Mars. I know people that have worked there, multiple people that have worked there. And we've apparently got the ability to even go beyond this solar system. And that's all a result of alien technology, which has been gifted to us.
You mentioned that you know, or you have met a number of people who have worked on the moon and worked on Mars. How do you buy their story? Because for most of us, it sounds so unfathomable.
It does sound unfathomable. I don't know anyone that's worked on the moon, but I know several people that have been to Mars. And the way that I buy it is, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm not so easy to fool as some people might be. And I can't stand people that I think are lying to me. But these people that I've spoken with they're absolutely solid, and I would trust my life to what they said. They are people who know more about aliens than any other people I've ever met, because they've actually lived the dream, so to speak. They've been sent to Mars and come back. They send them back through time, so that they can live. They go up there for like 20 years at a time sometimes, and then they send them back to Earth through time so that they can relive that 20 years of their life. And their memories are erased, but sometimes they can be triggered and come flooding back in. And that's what happened to these people. And I know a couple of them that are they're the most solid people I know. And if they're lying, I'm dying. I've got a picture two pictures that were given to me by a friend of mine from the Pentagon back in the late 90s, which show the entrance to the underground Mars base, our underground Mars base, not theirs. I was told at the time, he said, this does not belong to, he called them the visitors. He said, this does not belong to the visitors, this is ours. And that was back in the late 90s. I've got one picture which is taken with a red filter over it, which is common for all pictures taken from the Martian surface, and one without the filter, which is in natural color.
So I'm assuming it's more than just Randy Kramer you were buying on this story.
Yeah, I don't know Randy Kramer.
Wow. Because what you said sounds exactly like Captain K.
Yeah, I've read his story, and it's very similar to what people that I've spoken with have told me. I won't mention their names here because I don't know if they'd want me to or not, but they're very solid, and it's something that's, it's one of the most difficult things to believe about the whole alien contact scenarios, bases on Mars. But yes, we've been on Mars for decades, and we've got we've got children that are being born on Mars. We've got the whole deal. We do not control that world. We are allowed to have a base there as long as we do not interfere with the aliens and do not get in their way.
Have you ever released those photographs publicly?
Yes, I have. They're available on the net, and I've posted them on my Facebook page before, too.
I'd love to see them.
You can find me at Facebook if you want to. It's Derek Tyler 665, because I used to have a T-shirt that said 665 Neighbor of the Beast, and I thought it was funny. And somebody had already used Derek Tyler, so I had to think of a number for my Facebook page. So it's Derek Tyler 665. And I've also got a page called Alien Contact, The Difficult Truth. That's the page for my book, both on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go look at those because I do want to see them.
I'll send them to you right here.
Excellent.
You don't have to go anywhere.
Beauty! Beauty! And then I'll make sure to post them in our Spaced Out Radio group and on Twitter as well. Now, Derek, in regards to the MyLabs, you had mentioned in hour number 2 that you believe the U.S. government also has an alien gray breeding type program where they're creating their own grays to help in these MyLab abductions. How did you learn that information?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
In regards to what you said in hour number 1 about alien abduction and through the MyLab program where they are creating their own grays.
Well, the reason that I think that they are creating their own grays is because I've seen on at least 2 different occasions grays that were present when the military was abducting me, and they were assisting the military. I'll have to send you those pictures after the show. I forgot I'm using someone else's computer at the moment, so I'll have to get back to my own computer.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
But I'll do it right after the show's over.
Not a problem. We can do that. But in regards to this alien gray hybridization program that is happening with the MyLabs, is that so they can create the negative connotation of aliens while they're abducting our own humans?
Well, they are certainly trying to make us think that it is aliens that are abducting us rather than the military. And they've got various methods, as I understand it, that they can use to do that. Because, for one thing, it keeps them from being held responsible. And for another thing, if we happen to retain any memories, we will tell people that we were abducted by aliens, and after that, nobody will ever listen to us. So it's a way of protecting themselves at the expense of the aliens, I guess you'd say.
So it's all part of the whole process, is to try and make that look as extraterrestrial as possible.
Absolutely. And they've got extraterrestrial technology in their crafts. Are you familiar with the TR-3B?
Yes.
That's one of the crafts that they use to abduct people with. And it has a variety of extraterrestrial technology which is incorporated into it, including the propulsion system. It has a cloaking device, and Lord knows what else. But they use that. If you see a TR-3B, get out of there, because that's heavily involved in human abductions by the military.
Wonderful. Once again, I've seen 2 of them.
They've got a gravity canceling device in there, which it's not an anti-gravity, but it cancels out, I think it's 92% of the effect of gravity on the craft itself, which makes it capable of moving very fast, going very high, and maneuvering very quickly.
So what is the point of these military abductions then?
Well, I can't say that I know the point of it for sure. I think they have several purposes. I think that one of them is that they are creating their own hybrids. I know for a fact that they're creating their own hybrids. And they can be utilizing these hybrids for Lord knows what. I think sometimes they do it just because they can. But I think that some of these, some of the artificial copies of us that are being made are being sent to other worlds as colonists.
So do you think that they are being created, like you just said, to move to other colonies or other systems in the world, to be sold as some sort of trade slave or something along those lines?
No, I don't know that they're being sold as slaves, but I think that some of them certainly are being used as slaves. I've got something about that. You'd have to read that in the book too, but there's no doubt that some of us are being used as slaves and then returned back later to our original time, our original bed where they stole us out of, just like nothing had ever happened. But it's nothing good. I mean, if any of this was good, they wouldn't be killing people to keep it quiet, but they're killing people to keep it quiet. And I think that speaks for itself. And what it says is not friendly, it's not assistance, it's not spiritual enlightenment for the whole world just about to take place. None of those things are actually true. This world is no closer to becoming spiritually enlightened than it was thousands of years ago. There's just as much evil and hatred and wickedness in this world as there has ever been. And so I simply don't buy that theory at all. And there's people that think all aliens are here to help us, and I think that's incredibly ignorant. There's people that live within 50 yards of me that don't want to help me, you know? So don't tell me everybody in the galaxy wants to be my friend, because it doesn't make sense. And it's obviously not true.
Mm-hmm. And I can understand that, and I can believe that. I still have a real hard time understanding why the government would want to do this to us through these MyLabs. I mean, why do it so secretively when, let's face it, they could kidnap you and do what they want if they already are?
Well, there's only a very few people that control this, you know. The people who have access to the full amount of unredacted information are probably somewhere between 12 and 20 people in the world, and one of those people is not the president. There are approximately 16 levels of classified information above anything that the president is able to see, and that's where all the good stuff is. And so these people are basically making their own deals with the aliens in some cases, which is, I'm sure you're familiar with the Breakaway civilization idea. The secret space program feeds into that. And some of these, they've basically made their own bargains with the aliens and made their own agreements with them and are carrying them out absolutely regardless of what our government may officially be doing, you know. And they're simply using our tax money to carry out their own purposes. But it doesn't have anything to do with our benefit at all.
Mm-hmm. Is this happening in every country, or is this just an American issue?
Well, I think that the abductions are taking place worldwide to some extent. They are taking place probably more frequently in America because we've given them official permission to do it. And I think that it appears that there are some other countries which have signed their own agreements with aliens too, but we've given them official permission to be here and to abduct our people, and they are doing it, and they are doing it big time. And our military is more willing than any other military in the world to work with them against our own interests to do this. And if you have, let's say, if you have access to alien medical technology, which can, let's say, extend your life by 100 or 200 years, let's say, and then when your body wears out, if you have access to alien technology which will allow you to have a synthetic copy of your body when it's 30 years old, waiting for you when your body wears out, and your consciousness can be removed from your body and injected into that new, fresh, young body, what you have is a recipe for eternal life. And that is something that you absolutely will kill to protect, and you'll kill to keep your access exclusive, because it gives you such an enormous advantage over everyone else. And I think that is basically what we're dealing with here. The aliens do have this type of technology, and it's so far beyond anything that's in our experience that we can't imagine it. Sometimes we can't even believe it's possible, but it is possible, and it's being done.
Mm-hmm. Eternal life, though. Do you think that that's what they are trying to get for the elites or the cabal or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it?
I do think that that's one of the things that they're trying to get. And I think that I think that they've, in many ways, probably already got this ability. Human cloning has been going on for decades. Our military has been doing it for decades. There are cloning centers in underground bases that you'll never hear about, you'll never see, but they exist. And I think that that's exactly what they're doing. It's at very top levels.
So with these abductions that are going on by the military, do you believe they are using some of these humans as pawns or trying to create what we call the super soldier program?
Oh, yes, I think there's a super soldier program for sure. And I think that everyone is being used as pawns. All of us are pawns, whether we know it or not, because we don't have the ability to defend ourselves from this. How are you going to defend yourself from someone that can come through your walls at 3 a.m. when you're sleeping? You can't defend yourself from that. You know, you can't prove it happened. You can't hold them responsible. You can't stop them from doing it. we're all being used as pawns. The whole human race is being used as pawns. And the people who run this cabal, they're at the very top levels. There are very few of those people. A small group of families that are at the top, and they are using all of us as their pawns. Absolutely. And they are willing to do anything and kill any amount of people in order to increase their own power and wealth. If you look at something like 9/11, which was absolutely, there's got to be 24 ways that you can prove that was an inside job. That was an attack by the cabal on America that had nothing to do with Muslim fanatics at all. That was an inside job. We were being attacked by the cabal, and the purpose was to break us financially, to take away our freedoms, to get us to attack Iraq and get him back on the petrodollar, which the Federal Reserve Bank makes trillions of dollars off of, and to attack Afghanistan because the Taliban had forced them to stop planting opium poppies, which our intelligence agencies control the worldwide drug market, and Afghanistan produced 90% of the world's opium, which translates to heroin. And as soon as we toppled the Taliban, we made it legal to grow opium poppies again, and they're growing them in record numbers. It was an attack on us by the cabal. It had nothing to do with Muslim fanatics at all.
Let's get to some more questions here from our audience here. This one comes at Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio from John. When you went without sleep, did it help in your abductions?
No. It doesn't help, but you try it because you don't know what else to try. It doesn't help because they have the ability to force you to sleep. You can just be going along like normal, and all of a sudden you'll be hit with waves of sleepiness that you simply can't fight. And within 5 minutes you'll be asleep, and that's when they'll come. And so it doesn't help, but you try anything that you can possibly think of.
All right, and Jigsaw at #SpacedOutRadio is asking, is there anything humans can do to stop or reduce the number of abductions?
Well, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot, and I really don't know of any way to stop it. As I said, that Native American medicine woman certainly helped in my case, but not everybody knows a Native American medicine woman. There's not many of them around anymore. If you know any methods of psychic defense, utilize them. That's what I would say. Otherwise, I think that it's very difficult or impossible to stop because they've arranged it to be very difficult or impossible to stop. If it's, I don't know if you know any banishing rituals or something like that, I'd recommend that you use them. Other than that, I simply don't know of a way. I know the Grays supposedly hate cats. For some reason, they supposedly hate house cats, and they hate bright lights. So, if you think you're being abducted, sleep with the lights on, get yourself a cat. But I don't think it'll stop the abductions, but, it can't hurt. It's anything's worth a try because there's nothing fun about being abducted.
Tomorrow, there is said to be an announcement by former Blink-182 singer Tom DeLonge in regards to his research with extraterrestrials, that he has built almost like the O.J. Simpson lawyer team, for alien abductions, with government people coming out and saying that this phenomenon is real. Now, we have all been teased a little bit by Tom DeLonge over the last couple of years in regards to what he has learned through his organization, which he calls To the Stars Media. What do you think of this whole situation? Do you think there will be anything new in there?
I tend to doubt it. I think that if Tom DeLonge had a way of proving any of this, he'd be shot in the head, because that's what they do to people. They're not going to risk almost 100 years worth of secrecy and uncounted tens of billions of dollars they've spent keeping this quiet on some guy coming forward with proof. He'll be, if he actually has proof, he'll be terminated, and that's what makes me think that he won't actually have proof.
Well,
just like I can't prove what I say. If I could, I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. I'd be cold and dead.
Apparently his new team of advisors in his, I don't know if you call it a company or what have you. Apparently it'll all be announced tomorrow that it includes a 25-year veteran of the CIA's Directorate of Operations, a Lockheed Martin Program Director for Advanced System at Skunkworks, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, a DoD Senior Intelligence Officer who,
right, but this has all been done before. This has all been done before. These people have appeared before Congress, and the truth of it is, nobody's going to believe them. The public is not going to believe them. The only time the public is going to believe this is if the President of the United States himself comes out publicly and says so. Other than that, 95% of the people aren't even going to hear about this, and of those who do, most of them aren't going to believe that, that it's true, because it's more convenient not to. It's easier to not believe than to get into this whole big bag of worms. The deeper you get into this, the scarier it gets. And the less pleasant and the less comforting things become. It's a very scary topic, and that's why they've killed several thousand people over the years just to keep it quiet. They don't kill people to keep the news from going public that there's an alien race of Santa Clauses that have come here to help us ascend into our next spiritual dimension, because that would be pointless. They kill people because they don't want the news going public that's something very unwelcome and terrifying is going on.
I get that, and I understand that. So who is calling the shots? If this is way above the President of the United States, who's calling the shots on this when it comes to disclosure?
Well, I would say the people at the top of the cabal are calling the shots, because there's nobody else that has the ability to make disclosure happen. The President can't make disclosure happen. A lot of people seem to think that he can just give an order and make disclosure happen, but it's not true, because he's not given the full information himself. The military's attitude is, in 4 to 8 years, the President will be gone, and he'll never give another order in his life to anybody, but the aliens will still be here, and so will the military, and so will our programs, which are involved with the aliens and the alien technology. Therefore, just like anyone else, the President is told exactly as much as he needs to be told in order to do his job, and nothing more. They can't take the chance that some do-gooder is going to come along and try to put a stop to their projects just because they think that the American people are more important than the military,
And that does make sense, because love him or hate him, John Podesta tried his darndest through Bill Clinton and through Barack Obama's 2 terms to get the ET files out, and he couldn't.
No, he can't. No, and those presidents couldn't either. When President Carter came into office, George Bush I was the head of the CIA at that time, and Carter called him in and said, "I want to see all the UFO files," and Bush said, "No, you don't have security clearance, and I'm not showing them to you," and he absolutely refused to do it. And so the President doesn't have the ability to make that call, and the scuttlebutt is that Kennedy was attempting to do something like that, and that's the real reason they eliminated him. And no president since then has been allowed to see an alien himself.
Why is that?
Because the aliens are telepathic, and they can read the president's mind whether he wants them to or not. And if we might have some type of plans which are counter to the aliens' best interests, they would pick them right up. That's why no president goes to Area 51, although you'd think that would be the first place they'd all want to go. It's said that the guards at Area 51 have orders to use lethal force to keep the president out of there if they have to.
Really? That would be one hell of a war.
Yeah, you never hear of any of them going there. Eisenhower, when he was president, he threatened to send the 82nd Airborne in and conquer Area 51 if they didn't tell him what was going on inside there, which apparently they did. But he didn't go there himself, and none of the other presidents have either. And we all know that if we were elected president, that would be the first trip we'd take,
Yes, until we got shut down. I want to get this. Time is winding down here, and you're only going to be with us for the first 2 hours tonight. But I do want to get in Michelle's question from #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter. And she is asking, what do I do when I get abducted? Who can I call? Is there a helpline? What do I do?
Well, that's a tough question. There's no helpline. If you want someone to talk to, look me up on Facebook. I'm available to talk to, and I've done this for a long time. I'm pretty good at it. But there's no support. There's no support system. There's really no one you can talk to because there's a huge downside to talking about it. Of course, you can lose your credibility. You can lose your job. You can damage your reputation. You can lose your spouse because we've all been carefully trained to think that people who talk about alien abductions are either lying or crazy. And that's what most people are going to think. So you have to be very careful who you talk to about things like that, because the downside is huge and the upside is almost non-existent. What can you gain by talking about it? Not much, but you can lose everything. So it's very difficult. It's something that people have to, most of the time, come to terms with on their own. And it's very hard to do that because it's a very traumatic and unexpected event, something completely beyond our experience. And when you don't have anyone to talk to about it, boy, that's a tough situation. And there's a lot of people that are in that same situation and they don't know where to turn.
Derek, I want to say thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It is a real pleasure to have you on. Quickly, in about 20 seconds, tell us where people can find your book and the title of it.
It's called Alien Contact, The Difficult Truth. It's on Amazon.com. Derek Tyler's the author name. And within a couple months, Volume 2 will be out. It's going to be called Alien Contact Paradigm Shift. It's going to take up where the first volume left off. This is not for beginners. This is like a college-level advanced course on aliens. By the time you get done reading this whole series of books, you'll effectively have a doctorate in ufology, which is something you can't get anywhere else. So I highly recommend it. You won't be disappointed.
Derek Tyler, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Really appreciate you taking the time and filling us in. The one thing I liked about Derek tonight, ladies and gentlemen, very level-headed. Tells us there's a big difference between being contacted and being abducted. I think that's something that we need to specify because they are two different scenarios. Make sure you go look up Derek Tyler on Amazon, pick up his books. Fantastic human being. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. I'm all alone for hour number 3. We'll be right back.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio. And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, author C.L. Swinney is going to join us. We're going to talk about Canada's most notorious murderer, Willie Pickton. Robert Willie Pickton. and the 63 women who went missing on Vancouver's downtown east side. Many of their bodies found chopped up and fed to pigs a number of years ago. It's going to be a grotesque story, but a very truthful story. Author C.L. Swinney, tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, at spacedoutradio.com. Now, we want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as well. We're also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Scurryfung. Or is it Scurryfungi? Whatever it is, Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. You can use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can also on Facebook follow us via the live chat in the SOR Space Travelers group. We'd also like you to follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live, tune us in on TuneIn, download and subscribe to our shows on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month, rock out to some Bumblefoot, shop at the Spaced Out Radio store, read The Encounter online, or watch some great videos from UFO seekers and Contact TV and so much more. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. We want to thank Derek Tyler for being our guest in hours 1 and 2, for going over a lot of ET contact and abduction scenarios with us. So let's remember, there is a big difference between contact and abduction. I have had both. And I'll tell you, it's not... how do you even get into this? Well, let's just delve into it. Saturday night, I went to bed probably around 3 o'clock in the morning. I was working on the show till about 2 o'clock, and then usually what I do is I'll crawl into bed, and I'll put my headphones in, and I'll listen to people whom I might have on as potential guests on this show. So I usually fall asleep listening to somebody talking about whatever the topic may be. It may be aliens, it may be Area 51, it may be near-death experiences, it might be the secret space program, whatever it may be. I try and get into that because that's, this show doesn't turn off for me. Yes, it turns off for all of you after 3 hours, sometimes 4, where you guys go do your own thing afterwards. Well, I'm 24/7 here. I am 24/7. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is, as we strive to make this show bigger and better each and every night. So, the last time I saw my clock, which I have my alarm clock on my nightstand, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. At 4:10, I woke up in a stone-cold sweat. And my little guy, according to Mrs. SOR, woke up at 3:30. So, between 3:30 and 4:10 in the morning, both me and Mrs. SOR were taken. It was the weirdest scenario. So I'm going to try and paint as accurate a picture as I can right now. And it's hard for me to explain because I don't know if it was a dream or if I was actually taken. I am more leaning towards that I was taken. I've talked to 3 different people whom I trust in this field. I talked to R. Keith Andrews. I talked to Elizabeth Anglin. And today I had a long discussion with Samantha Mowat about it. And just for all of you, Samantha is starting to do a little bit better with her health. And Samantha Mowat was a once-a-month featured guest on this show up until earlier this year when her father passed away, and then she went through some health issues. And she has recently bought a new house with her hubby and their children. And we're looking at a potentially December, return of Samantha Mowat to our monthly featured list. And to me, as I have always stated on this show, Samantha is the best kept secret in ufology today. Why that young lady has not been picked up by the television networks, by all of these different conferences and just tours around doing these conferences, I have no idea. It's good for us around here because it gives a legitimate voice. Now, for those of you who are new to this show and who may not know who Samantha is and the relationship Samantha and I have, Samantha was the person whom I saw my first extraterrestrial with back on April 15th of 2014. And we'll get more into that, so I'm looking forward to Samantha coming back. But anyways, back to what happened on Saturday. Mrs. SOR and I were taken between 3:30 and 4:10 in the morning. And what I remember of this, and once again, I'm going to try and paint a picture here, so please bear with me. I recall being around a lot of people. And it was almost like we were in a, lack of a better term, a church-type setting. And we were all kind of being filed in pairs into, I'm going to call it a cathedral, but not like you would see in a church. Like, it wasn't on the main ground. It was like it was going up. And there was like this floating escalator or elevator that took you up into these oval type pods, except there was no roof on them. And what I recall happening is Mrs. SOR and I going up about halfway. So if you imagine like this pine cone shape going up, it was pointed like that at the top. And then, from the top there would be 1, then say a row of 2, a row of 3, a row of 4, a row of 5, and so on and so forth until it whittles its way back down. And we went about halfway up and to the middle, and we got off of this ramp style thing, and we took our seats. And didn't really feel anything at that point. I remember I went in first. Mrs. SOR came beside me and sat down. What I do remember of these pods that we were sitting in was they were red. And, in the old 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s cars, the interior in the back seat, it was kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm not a car guy. Like ruffled, you had the stitches and then it kind of bulged out to the next stitch and then it went again. It kind of, I apologize for not knowing the terminology. And I know I'm looking really silly here, but I'm just not a car guy. All right. So what happened was we were sitting down on this bench and there was a back to it. The next thing I know, we are lying down, sans clothing, side by side on our stomachs. And I remember falling asleep there. And then the next thing I know, there is my heart started beating really, really fast in anxiousness. And then it felt like there was as I started to kind of sit up or to raise my head up, it felt as my heart was racing that there was a hand that went over top of my head, holding my head down. I don't remember much after that panic, but I do remember right after that, where I picked my head up and I was pissed right off. I was absolutely angry. And I looked to my right, Mrs. SOR is still passed out. I looked to my left, and this little, there was like a floor where our feet would be, but it was raised up. It was maybe 2 feet up, 2-3 feet up. And I kind of looked down into where this foot section or standing section would be. And it was all black. All I could see was shadows. And this one little gray dude, he was kind of hunchbacked, went scurrying away. He was maybe 3 feet tall. He went scurrying away quickly as he saw my head pull up. But this is where it gets strange. Right after that, behind him, there was a little baby toddler there. And the toddler was kind of, you know how toddlers walk. They don't have much balance. He was walking very slow, trying to catch up to the gray. But this is what I remember of the toddler, because I could only see the outline of him or her. I don't know what it was. But it was wearing a diaper. And the diaper was fluorescent green, like a dark fluorescent green, almost like, you know when you see a nice picture of the Northern Lights, it's got that really dark, cool green color. That's the green it was, and it was fluorescent. And in between this, there was like threads of black and a luminescent red going through in all different directions into this fluorescent green. And I remember I got real angry again. And the next thing I know, I wake up, I'm in bed, my eyes are open, my heart is racing, I jump up, I look at the clock, it's 4:10 in the morning, and I immediately said, Jolene? And she's all asleep. Our little guy is asleep beside her, because he crawled into bed with us. I'm like, Jolene. She goes, what? Because, you know, you never want to wake up your sleeping bride. That's just dangerous. Absolutely dangerous. And she goes, or I go, I just got back. I was taken. And she goes, what? I said, get up. I said, you need to check me right now. And so we walked into our ensuite in our master bedroom, and I started looking all over. Never saw anything, you know, had a weird feeling in my body. Had a really weird feeling in my body, something I had never experienced before. I did not see any markings whatsoever. But I can tell you this. It scared the living heck out of me. And it was as real can be. So I asked Elizabeth about this, and Elizabeth picked up that I was taken, along with Jolene, and that it wasn't a very pleasant experience, which would be the second time I recall in me being taken that it hasn't been very pleasant. It was, I talked to our Keith Andrews about it. I mentioned the baby to him, and he said the story made sense to him, and that he had seen a baby like that before, not with the diaper. I don't know what else to call it, but that's what it looked like to me as I translate it. And from there, I talked to Samantha Mowat today, and I was telling Samantha about it, and Samantha, her word to me is absolutely gold when it comes to these subjects, because I have experienced extraterrestrials with her. And it was odd. It was very odd. By the way, Twitter crowd, I really don't mind if you snark me on this. I really don't. It's okay. I can handle that. So, the whole point that I'm getting at here is, I wasn't prepared for it. It caught me off guard. And, I know they did something to my body. Can't figure out what. But today is the first day in the last 3 where I've actually felt pretty darn good. And, by the way, Twitter crowd, Michelle is asking, Dave, can you settle this? How old are you, please? I'm 44. I am 44. So, that's my age. Anyways, that happened Saturday, and my head is fine. That's the first time I felt any type of, lack of a better term, violence towards me when they were shoving my head down so I couldn't pick it up. I'm a little phobic, and somebody holding my head down just sends me up a wall. It really does send me up a wall. And this one got me going. And I really, really don't want to experience this one again. I really don't. It's very rare in this field that I get scared, because I've experienced so much, whether it's paranormal, whether it's, with ghosts, or whether it's with aliens, or even Sasquatch for that matter. But this one got me. This one got me bad. And I'll tell you, like I said to Elizabeth, and I said to Samantha this morning when her and I talked, I want to have a word with Carl. I do. I want to have a word with Carl about this. BTO is asking, Dave, did you smell anything like sulfur? No, I didn't smell a thing. But then again, it doesn't surprise me that I don't, because my nose has been broken a few times. Blame hockey for that. That's always good. Always blame hockey. In a good way, though. So, this one, though, it rocked me pretty good. And I woke up on Sunday morning, and I felt very angry. I felt I felt, lack of a better term, okay, I felt first time ever with extraterrestrials, I felt violated. No, I know what you're thinking, Twitter crowd, not happening, didn't happen, so on, so forth. All right. Ron in the SOR Space Travelers is saying, enough asking Carl to show up, okay, Dave? No, Carl has a totally different energy. Carl has a hugely different energy. It wasn't Carl. It wasn't his group. This was an ET that I had never seen before. That little baby thing, whatever it was, I don't know what the hell it was. My birthday is May 24th, 1973. Apparently the Twitter crowd is still debating my birthday. May 24th, 1973. And all of you on Twitter still haven't sent me a birthday present from earlier this year. So, anyways, the whole point that I'm getting at is it was a different energy than what I'm used to. And that's why when Derek was on, I had mentioned to him, you know, if you recalled me saying this, if you were tuning in hour number 2, where I said, you know, the energy, you can tell the difference between the energy of it all. Okay? You could tell the difference between good and bad. It's the same thing like when you're around dogs. Because most of us are dog people or cat people. Okay? You can tell the difference between an animal that is likes you and an animal that doesn't like you. Everything is energy. So that is what it was like. The energy on this one was different. The energy did not keep me grounded. Right? Venny is asking, talk more about the green light, please. What was the consistency and why does it stand out to you? All right. There was no green light. The green was on this baby that was there. This baby and the diaper. I don't know what else to call it. It looked like a diaper. And this diaper was glowing like the color of the northern lights. That really beautiful type luminescent green. And then, of course, there was like black threads going through that luminescent and like glowing red threads, like really dark, like almost blood red type threads going through the black and the green as well. It just stood out to me because in this area of darkness where they were walking, this alien and this baby, that was the only thing that was lit up. BTO is asking, were there any temperature changes when this was going on? No, it was warm. It was warm. So, it was... Corey. Dave, you don't have anyone with you for third hour? No, that's why I'm here alone. I wanted to tell my story, man. I wanted to tell this story. This is an important story for what we do. I share all my stories with you guys. I got nothing to hide. But this one tripped me out. It tripped me out. Venny is asking, would you consider it more holographic or plasmic type light? I would say plasmic. It wasn't, the diaper was on the baby that was walking away. The light wasn't moving. It wasn't like an ocean in this luminescent diaper. I don't know, maybe it had a weird crap. I don't know. All I know is I was enraged, man. I was enraged. It wasn't something that I want to experience again. Craig is asking, Dave, do you regret begging to be abducted? No, I've been an abductee before I ever begged to be abducted. I'm not begging to be abducted. All I'm saying is Carl owes me a ride. I want to go. I want to go awake, though. I really do want to go awake. So I asked Mrs. SOR about what she experienced that night. I apologize for pausing, but Sailor at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Dave, can you say all of this with a British accent? Not the Cockney, but the King's English. No, man. I'm Canadian. I got enough of an accent as it is. But that's funny, because Sailor tries to make me laugh every show. Every show he tweets something out that try to make me laugh. And usually, it's because, sometimes the topics, it's just a thing we have, and I appreciate that. Les is saying, I'm thinking you wanted this experience, good or bad. No, I've had a lot of positive experiences, and I was planning on staying positive. But getting back to Mrs. SOR for a second, she doesn't recall anything. I was only able to narrow down the time because I knew what time I got back. I immediately looked at the clock, and it was 4:10 a.m. And when she told me that our little guy had woken up and she brought him into bed at 3:30, I knew we had gone between 3:30 and 4:10. I don't think they had enough time to actually get to her because I woke up. I don't think that, I'm sure that was in the plan. We were both lying on this, and it was I'm not going to call it a table, but it was comfortable. I fully get that. It was comfortable. It confined to the shape of the body. It was great. But no, I don't think anything happened to her. And there were no marks on my body. We talked about it again yesterday, and talked about it on Sunday. She doesn't recall anything. But we got it written down. That's the main thing. And on record here with this show, because this show will go into archive. Ron is asking, Dave, who or what species? It was a weird-looking gray, and its back was hunched. That I can tell you. Kind of had a hunched back and walked like it was slouching. Sorry, I had to grab a drink. So, that was my experience. There's a question from John at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. How do you know it wasn't just a very vivid dream? And I questioned that, John. That is a fantastic question. Because I did. But you know when your body tells you that something is wrong? My body told me that something was wrong. That's how I knew. And it wasn't until today that I started feeling better. So I've had a couple of days where I just haven't been feeling good, and to be honest with you, for the last 2 days, I haven't got my ass off the couch. I've watched more television through this long weekend up in here in Canada, our Thanksgiving weekend, than I have in the last 2 years. Literally, I don't watch television. And I have been motivated for nothing. Motivated to do absolutely nothing the last couple of days. So, that was odd. That was very odd to me because I just wasn't prepared for an experience like that. But maybe we're not supposed to be prepared. You know? Venny is asking, why did you have to influence my question? Because it was a good question, Venny. I'm a fan of yours. We've drank coffee together. Right? Anyways, it was an odd experience, and I don't think it was lucid dreaming. And I hope I don't have that happen again. Trip is asking, Dave, does it feel like the old implant is still there, or does it feel like an empty spot? No, that implant is still there in the back of my head. That one is still there. Bill Cardwell is asking, were you eating spicy food before bed? I've heard spicy food can cause vivid dreams, and since you said you weren't sure if it was a dream or not, your feelings may be just a part of the mind-body connection you had. We had turkey dinner and on the Saturday night, and that's when it happened, early Sunday morning. So I didn't have anything spicy, and there was a little bit of garlic, but there was nothing that would cause me to act the way I did. Like I said, you know, it was a very, very weird feeling in my body that something had been done. And that's how I know. Adam is asking, is this your first bad experience? No, it's my second. The last one I don't really recall too much. What I do remember about the first negative experience I had was that there was like 5 grays around me, and they were all the 5.5, 6 foot grays, and they were holding my arms back, and I got my one arm free, and I punched one right in front of me. And all I remember is hearing, he's waking up, get him back, get him back, get him back. I punched the guy, next thing I knew, I woke up in my bed. So, the one thing I do want to point out, though, is I'm someone, and I've said this many a times on this show. Thanks, Sailor Twift. I'm not even going to repeat that tweet at hashtag SpaceOutRadio. You guys can go look for yourself, but that's funny. That's funny. I should have never clicked over to my Twitter screen. My TweetDeck screen, I should say. Because now I lost my train of thought. Oh, goodness. Somebody remind me where I was there. Anyhow, I never prepared for a negative experience like that, and I'm pissed off about it. And once again, I do plan on having a conversation with Carl about it. Carl and I are going to have some words because Carl's energy is much different. And I plan on having a little talk with Carl about that. Venny is asking, Dave, why was the baby significant for you? I think it was because of the diaper and the fact that it was following this little gray. This little gray dude who is maybe 3 feet tall. And the baby, I have thought about that. Was was this maybe, if this was real, and let's say by all intents and purposes, it was real, okay? You know, I was thinking, do I know that baby? Am I a part of that baby? Because I stared at it. Never mind the luminescent diaper. Never mind that. But I was looking at that, and I wondered, while I was looking at it, if that was maybe a hybrid child. Because we hear about them. You know, we've heard it many a times on this show in regards to hybridization of children. And I wondered if that was maybe one of mine. I don't know. I have nothing to prove. I don't even have the proof that this was a real experience. Although my body is telling me different. But I just stared at that baby, wondering what the hell would a baby be following a gray for? So, that was that. Craig is asking, why were you mad, Dave? What brought that on? I think because the reason why I panicked and I got mad was a couple of reasons, Craig. Number one, when I felt something was going to happen, my heart started racing. Like it felt like my heart was going to come right out of my chest. And when I tried to pick up my head to almost catch my breath, it felt like my head was being shoved down. And that made me mad. That made me mad. And I just knew at that point right there it wasn't going to be a pleasant experience. So human nature, you get mad. You get mad, you get angry, you want to fight. And it almost felt like survival. And then I calmed myself down. And I remember my heart started slowing down, and I figured, okay, I got to slow this down. So I slowed down my breathing, and it was like, okay. It reminded me of my first ET experience when I saw the three little gray dudes when they were implanting me in the back of my head. And they were very much, at that point, I remember that feeling pain, and then I was able to calm myself down. All right, through breathing. I don't know if it was meditation. I don't know. I could sit here and give you some kind of BS conjecture like, oh, I started meditating and the next thing you know, I was fine and they let them do their thing. But no, partially true. I did calm my breathing down and then I tried to tune out, let them do their thing. But like I said, my body started feeling strange, and when I woke up, I just woke up with that anger again, and that's where I kind of picked my head up because I could feel that there was nothing holding my head down anymore. I picked my head up, I looked to the right, saw Mrs. SOR laying there, looked to my left, and I picked my head up and looked down, and that's where that little gray dude bastard was running away. And that's what got me angry. That one got me angry. So that's why I got angry. Adam is asking, was it physically you or just your consciousness? I'm going to say this time it was very physically. This one felt very, very physical. So, yeah. That was my Saturday night, going into Sunday morning. How was your weekend, everyone? Vinny is saying, if you found out that your abduction saved that baby's life, would you think differently of it? I don't think it did. Because that baby was like in toddler shape. And he was just following that Gray around. I didn't see anything in the Gray's hands or anything. So, I don't know. Really don't know. Les is asking at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, Dave, why did you not kick him in the balls? Because my legs felt like they were stuck while I was laying down. Sita is asking, have you developed any hemorrhoids after this experience? And if so, were they fluorescent? Fluorescent hemorrhoids. I have never heard of that before. But no, I don't have any hemorrhoids. Preparation H or witch hazel is not going to be going near my sphincter at this time. I'm okay then. It wasn't a baby, Vinny. It was more a toddler. It looked human. It looked completely human. I would say if you pictured your average, between 1.5 and 2-year-old, that awkward stage where they're still trying to find their balance, that's the kind of walking it did. All right. Just post one question in the Spreaker chat, guys, because I am scrolling up to catch up on them, so I only need one. All right. Alan is saying, Dave, the baby was you in the past. I don't know. I didn't feel that type of connection to it. I didn't feel that type of connection. And it was definitely panic in my chest. Let's get to another question from the SOR Space Travelers. Ron is saying, what past guest predicted your alien experience for the fall? Oh, there was a number of them. Elizabeth April did. R. Keith Andrews did. Elizabeth Anglin did. Samantha Mowat did. Oh, there was a number of people who said this fall it was coming. But I was expecting Carl and his boys. I wasn't expecting this guy. Was not expecting this guy whatsoever. This was weird, man, because if I was on a spacecraft, it was kind of cool. Because it didn't feel like anything. It felt like, we were just there. Like you're walking into this church type thing or this music hall type thing. I will try and draw that out. I'm not a good artist. I'm going to see if Mrs. SOR will do it. She is much, much better at the drawing than I am. All right, let's get to the next question. Kelly is asking, Dave, in regards to the clicking sounds made from the Greys, are they similar to the rapid clicking sounds made from the Predators in the movie series? Maybe someone here will know what I mean. Yes, Kelly, yes. I like to describe it, if you watch the movie Signs, and you hear the clicking sound on there where through the walkie-talkies, you hear that kind of thing. That's what it sounded like. Let's go back to the Spreaker questions. 2 from Venny. Dave, do you think you were there for the baby? No, I don't. He was just following that Gray guy. I don't know why. Haven't put that puzzle piece together. Part 2. Dave, is there an emotional reason that you were angry? You've described the physical things. Yes, because I don't like being pinned down. I mean, sometimes it's okay, but it all depends on the situation, right? Right? All depends on the situation. And it was funny because before they were kind of pushing my head down, or whatever was pushing my head down, I didn't like that feeling. I felt my heart rate coming, and I went to get up. And that's when they shoved my head down. And I don't like that. Like I said, I'm phobic that way. And that's what kind of got me going. Trip is asking, Dave, have you talked to baby SOR and tried to see if he's been anywhere different lately? No, I have not. I know he's seeing some things recently. Well, not recently, but in the past few months. But I have... No, I wouldn't bring that up to him. I really don't know how to bring that up to him. Michael is asking in the SOR Space Travelers, is there anything that would distinguish the experience from reality or dream, Dave? Yes. They did something to my body. I don't know what. But they did something to my body, and my body just has not felt right for the last almost 72 hours. Or 48 hours after it happened. 50 hours. So that is how I knew. You can tell when there is something wrong with your body. Okay, you break an arm. Okay, you get a bloody nose. You start getting stomach pains, foot pains, whatever it may be. You can tell when there is something wrong with your body. Your mind knows. Even if it doesn't hurt, you can tell when there's something wrong with your body. And that's what it was. That's what it was. Venny is asking, did you feel angry due to the non-consensual nature of the act? Yes. Yeah, that was part of it. That was part of it because of the fact that I'm a pretty open guy. We talk about this all the time. All they got to do is ask. I think one of the things that really pissed me off was I tried to, up until this point, from the last negative experience I had up till this one, you always hear these intuitive people say, put it out to the universe. Put it out to the universe. So I did. I put it out to the universe, and I said, I don't want to be taken on any more of these BS nighttime things. If you're going to take me while I'm awake. I'm at that point now where I need to know. Okay? I need to know. And I got tired of that. Because, I was upset because I don't want that happening. I'm tired of that happening. I need to know. I have you people to report. Right? I got you people to report to. And I can tell you, I don't want this nighttime stuff. So yeah, I felt violated. I got violated. I felt violated by that. That they broke their rules instead of respecting mine. That pissed me off. Pissed me off big time. So, I hope none of you get to go through that. I really don't. It wasn't fun, man. It wasn't fun. And seeing Mrs. SOR right beside me, that's the first time that I've been taken where she has been taken as well. Right? So I just, it upset me. Because I'm not saying that, I know I've been the proponent that, hey guys, not all ET contact is bad. You've heard me say that on this show. And I'm pissed off because this can happen. This can happen to any one of us. Right? And it's not cool when it does. It's not cool. You know, it's not impressive. So, it was... I don't know how to put it. I don't know how else to put it. It was one of those strange, strange tales. Venny is asking, Dave, do you identify as an empath? Yes. Yes, I am. You know, can pick up things. At times. Energy, yes. Trip is saying, when did I mention for you to keep your third eye open? My third eye is always open. You know? Just doesn't mean that you're going to be able to tell when these experiences are coming. Because they don't really let you know. You know what I'm saying? They don't really let you know when it's going to happen. But remember, there is a huge difference between contact and abduction. I was abducted. I've had contact. Contact works much easier. It really does. It works much easier. It's much more fun. Getting taken without consent, that's not fun. There's nothing fun about that. Nothing fun about it whatsoever. Les, Dave, tell me you did not forget running the video camera. I don't have a video camera. I don't have a video camera. If somebody wants to donate some trail cams or video cams, hey, hit me up privately. I'll more than take them. I'll set them up. I got no problem doing that. No problem doing that. Right? No problem whatsoever. But I can tell you, don't want that to happen again. It's just not very Christian when you get taken like that. Not very Christian whatsoever. And I hope none of it ever happens to you guys. What a good show tonight. Thank you so much for letting me share that experience with you guys. That was weird. I didn't think that would take an hour, but it actually did. If you're listening in the background, you hear Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Sons of Apollo and Art of Anarchy, rocking us with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. He rocks us in and out of every single show. Tomorrow night on the program, we get into the grotesque story of Robert Willie Pickton, Canada's most notorious murderer, from Vancouver's downtown east side. It's going to be a disgusting story. C.L. Swinney is going to be with us for the first 2 hours tomorrow night. No, Trip, I did not go get Tim Hortons donuts before or after my abduction on Saturday. I'm kind of pissed I didn't. They could have at least went through the drive-thru on bringing me back. Want to say thank you so much for our first guest of the night, first 2 hours, Derek Tyler. Great man. I have met him in person. It is great to hear someone with that much knowledge and, stays down the middle in his research. We don't get a lot of that in this field. So, Derek, thank you so much for being with us. Also, want to say thank you to all of my Spaced Out Radio team. We got Amy Martin. We got Everett Thiemer. We got Michael W. Hall. We've got Olaf Phillips, Catherine James, Tim Doyle, Jolene Lammers, all helping us out. But most importantly, my friends, it's all about you guys. You are the listeners taking part in the chat rooms, on social media, spreading the word and the love that SOR creates. And I want to say a big heartfelt thank you to all of you who do that. Because together, my friends, we own the night. I'll talk to you in 21 hours from now. And I hope you come back and join me. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. Can you take us home, please? Good night.